All right. Let me get Facebook set up. All right. We are live. Welcome, everyone. We're getting a couple people straggling in. All right. Well, welcome to the Epic Spell Wars of the Battle Wizards Hijinx at Hell High launch party. Today we have Corey Jones and Ben Stoll here to talk with us a little more in depth about what makes this game special, why it's fun, and why it's the newest addition to the Epic Spell Wars game line.
It's the newest edition because it's the latest one we put out. So that's an easy question to start off with. Why is this the newest edition?
That's fair. You know what? I set myself up for that, you know?
So before we jump into it, I want to make sure maybe give a couple minutes. Do we have anyone watching this right now, or are we alone?
We have a couple attendees on Zoom. Let me get the Facebook all situated. We got a couple people on Facebook too.
Okay. Great. So thank you very much for the introduction. Again, I'm Corey Jones. I'm the creator of Epic Spell Wars. And we have also coming from his sex dungeon here, Ben Stoll. Ben is the executive vice president of game theory for Cryptozoic. And he's the one who helps make sure that all of our games are extra great.
Yes.
And so what we would love to talk about a little bit today is the new Epic Spell Wars, which is Hijinx at Hell High. And what is new about this version. You know, every time we put out a new Epic Spell Wars, we try to include some new mechanics and try to mix it up, make it fun without losing what's distinct about Epic Spell Wars, which is the notion of combining cards in a very chaotic and fun way to kill all the other people playing with you. You can see I cultivated a wizard look for this today. I grew out this special beard for this broadcast so I could be a wizard.
And I tried to work up a sweat, and I'm in my sex dungeon, so that's my part.
Your commitment to the role is admirable.
That would have been good for the last Epic Spell Wars, the Panic at Pleasure Palace. Sexy Epic Spell Wars.
Yes.
This one, for the first time, Epic Spell Wars, we kind of went off, and Epic Spell Wars 1 was just a general wizards doing battle. Epic Spell Wars 2 was sort of more the same in the sense that it was the over-the-top wizards thing, Castle Tentakill. And then with 3, we started to figure out, maybe some top-down design would be fun. And in 3, we were at Murder Shroom Marsh. So it was all sort of, we had bad trips and cantrips. And so we tried to have this sort of drug theme with that one. If you go back through all the cards, you'll notice a lot of drug jokes in that one. And then the last one was the Panic at Pleasure Palace. And that was our sexy Epic Spell Wars, which included the MTDs, the magically transmitted diseases, which was Matt Hyra, our game designer Matt Hyra, who had that great top-down concept. And the MTDs I loved. Actually, the game came with a bag that would look like a scrotum, like an actual human ball sack, and that's where you'd reach into to get your magically transmitted diseases like gorgonorrhea and what were some of the other ones? The gorgonorrhea I liked quite a bit.
Herpes?
Genital harpies.
Genital
harpies
yeah.
was a good one.
Crotch krakens, is that where that's from too?
Krakens, that was a good one. Horror hole, we had that one. And so anyway, that was the last one. This one, for the first time, we sort of just picked a thematic and went with it. So it wasn't the top line of like drugs or sex or crazy over-the-top gore. This time we went to high school. And so this one is Hijinx at Hell High. And as a thematic, it gave us the chance to sort of do some new fun stuff mechanically. And what we came up with, and what I think is really great, is the social standing component. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to screen share so I can bring up the social standing board and give you a look at that. We can talk through a little bit of how that works. And then once we talk about the social standing board, we can talk about the other core card mechanic, which is bully and bullying. And we'll go through that too. So one of the great things about Epic Spell Wars is that there's a standee in every box, and the standee is a big part of the gameplay. And so when you kill someone, you get the standee, and it gives you bonuses, and it's a trigger for bunches of mechanics inside of the cards themselves. For this one, the standee is actually built to include this board that tracks your social standing. Everyone knows the only reason to go to high school is the chance to, interface with other kids, develop a social standing, and do drugs, I guess. I don't know. That seems to me like
and bully the people that are beneath you in the
that's
social
right.
pecking order.
Now that's why you get social standing. That's not why you go, but why you get social standing. That way you can bully the kids around you, and then also the doing the drugs. And sex. That's the drugs and the sex. As far as I can figure, that's all high school is good for.
Yeah, D&D, drugs, sex, violence, basically all of the other Epic Spell Wars games. And
did you just include D&D? Is that what you said?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's right. I like that. It's very nerdy. I didn't put it out there, although I actually did play quite a bit of D&D in high school. Okay, so I'm going to throw this up on the screen, and you can see what I'm talking about. All right. So can you see now the social status board?
Yup.
I can't tell. I assume I'm sharing the screen properly.
I see it.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So the way the game works is at the beginning of the game, everyone rolls dice. Everyone likes rolling dice. And the person who rolls the highest score actually gets to be class president. They start at the 8th position. And then whoever rolled second highest, they get to be the jock. And then it kind of goes down from there. And if you're playing 4 or 5 players, you'll fill in those first 4 or 5 slots. Now, everyone knows the social status board, although I actually have a high schooler, and I was told that this is not correct at all, this social status board, that the class president would never be considered the top rung of the social status, that they're a nerd, and that no way. And so, I should have consulted with my 16-year-old.
I know, that's
valid. Who knows best about high school than me, a 50-year-old man? So that's very clearly that this is perfect. So we start off with the class president. So the class president, Ben, you want to explain the mechanics? I don't want to monopolize all the time.
Okay, yeah, sure. It's funny. I actually, the high school I went to, there was definitely a little bit of bleed over between the naughty popular kids and the kind of smart popular kids, because it was a smart kid magnet school and whatnot. So we actually kind of had a popular class president.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
No, sorry, not to humble brag, just to say I think sometimes the class president can be popular.
Okay.
But anyways, mechanics, yeah. So the class president obviously is the head honcho of this social hierarchy and is, I think, the most fun and it's the most influential power, as it sort of should be. So you get to draw an extra card every turn as the class president, which is already pretty awesome. And then you basically, if you've played the Spell Wars games before, you know that there's the 5 magic types, same as always. And one of the things that happens is you're rolling you're rolling a number of dice equal to your power level in that spell, which is the more you concentrate your 3-part spell to have 1 magic type, you're getting to roll more dice, better chance at better results. So the class president every round gets to choose one of the 5 magic types. And, he's trying to pick something that benefits himself and that maybe he doesn't want, that will hurt somebody else or whatever, or he knows the magics really well and is trying to think about what he wants to enhance. So you get to kind of enhance 1 magic type for the whole round as the class president, which is super fun, I think.
Yeah, so as you're building your spell, if you've got 3 arcane and then you choose arcane as the bonus, then you're going to have 4 dice to roll on your spell's turn, and that's a huge advantage. And so, but also if everyone else is kind of low on health, and you don't want to go primal, or there's the healing, so you can kind of work around which of those things to buff based on sort of where everyone's position is in the game at that moment. Although typically that's a pretty advanced gameplay.
Right.
A little more beer and pretzels-y. But typically I think you're just going to want to double down on whatever spell you're making. So it gives you the chance to really dominate and, keep your lead and keep your role as the class president. Number 2 is the jock. So the class president and then the jock.
That's
the
definitely
jock
right.
Actually is pretty interesting. They get to bully one of the other players and force them to give one of their cards to them. Now, the player can say, no, they don't want to give them that card, but if they do, they're going to get, the noogies. They get to take 3 damage, so they get beat up by the jock.
Oh, my God.
And of course, keeping in mind that as the jock, you still can't bully the class president.
No, that's right. It had to be a lower social standing.
Right. The slutty cheerleader is a very fun one. You have the one power where, right beneath the jock. You have the power where you get to choose somebody else, and you both heal damage together. You both heal too, so you get to kind of pick a friend for the turn, as it were.
Yeah, so this is the top-down, we're alluding to some behaviors that the slutty cheerleader may engage in with either the jock or the class president. They can't pick anyone of a lower social standing. It has to be higher social standing. So they can pick from the jock or the class president, and then they both heal up.
Oh yeah, right. Of course, you're only going to be sleeping with the jock or the class president. You're not going to be
sure
sleeping with loners.
That's my
no, sorry,
rule.
not sleeping.
Whenever we play, I always want to be the slutty cheerleader because I'm all about love. So then we have the basic bitch who gains a treasure unless you own more treasure than each other foe. So if you own equal to or less than the number of treasures that your foes have, you actually get a treasure at the beginning of your turn. So the basic bitch
Super
has to
powerful.
have it all. What was that, Ben?
She's really good. Yeah.
Yes, that's a really fun one.
Can be really.
Again, we'll go into the treasure cards. Like, it's fun because the treasure cards sort of mix it up and have lots of crazy stuff going on. So when you're the basic bitch, it lets you get some really fun, stuff to go along with what you're doing. So then we have the nerd. The nerd is when you go to check your spell, while your HP, your hit points are a prime number, you get to add 1 to any damage you deal, which doesn't sound like a ton, but there's lots of little triggers inside of the spells where you could be doing a lot of different damage packets, and all of them going up by 1 actually becomes pretty powerful pretty quick.
Right, especially if if you have a spell that's targeting, say, like every other player, that's a pretty, you're buffing damage to a lot of damage packets, like you said, yeah. So.
Right. In here again, another very controversial placement in terms of hierarchy here. The stoner under the nerd. Not quite understanding that one, but it's okay. This was all done by committee. So the stoner deals 1 damage to a foe of your choosing with a higher social status for each VP they have. So this one's sort of like he gets to punish whoever's sort of running away with the game. Is that a good assessment, Ben? Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, exactly. Because, I mean, whoever has most VP is going to be whoever is likely to win at any given moment. So,
right.
Yeah.
And it's not always that there's someone on the stoner position, because as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's about 6 slots down. Now, cards will let you sort of go up and down. When you kill someone, you go up 1 in the social status board. The cards will let you go up and down the social status board. But to get down to the lower ones actually requires sometimes for you to be trying to do it so that you can set yourself up for some sort of fun mechanics on the cards. And a great example of that is the loner. The loner is super fun. The loner, at the start of your turn, if your spell has 1 or fewer components, add the top 2 cards to the main deck. Discard cards that match components that types that you control. So it basically builds a random set of 3 on your turn. And the great news is, though, with 1 card in play, you're probably going to go first. So you're going to get to go first. You're going to have a 3-card spell. So being the loner is actually pretty good, except for all of the spells that talk about whoever is lowest on the social status board and them taking damage or having negative effects. So it's sort of a give and a take. One of the great things about, we'll talk about it a little bit with the bully stuff, one of the great things about Epic Spell Wars is the tension it creates between when your spell is going to go off and what your spell is going to do. So anyone who's played Epic Spell Wars knows that you can build a really fun 3-card spell, and it's like, okay, he's at lower health, and he's to my left, and this is going to all trigger perfectly and go off. That never happens, because what really happens is your spell goes off after someone else's, and that changes all the math. And so that fun tension from all the other Epic Spell Wars has gotten a new sort of layer inside of the Hijinx at Hell High. And that is the social standing board, because now when you're building spells, you're not just looking at who's to your right and left, who's higher health than you. You're also looking at where they are on the social status board, and that can dramatically change what happens once your spell actually occurs. And that's, I think, one of the probably the most fun element of Epic Spell Wars is that tension. And sort of raising that up by a notch in the new game is, I think, a pretty big accomplishment.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. And I think it is actually one of the key distinction points of the game that's kind of like a little bit, it's hard to see just by looking at this component board. But, if because a lot of times the spells, you can play a really powerful swingy spell that's like, do tons and tons of damage to everybody beneath me on the social status board. And if somebody plays swap places with you on the social status board and that goes off first, I mean, you really wasted your whole turn. And you
Right.
definitely do feel the increase in tension in this one, waiting for your spell to resolve, hoping it doesn't get totally fucked up by something. But
I do actually have a question about the social status board. Is there a token to show which glyph has the bonus for the turn, just so that everyone remembers?
Yeah, so if you can see here up on the top, there's a little token that they'll place on one of these, and that shows them which one of the glyphs is actually powered up that turn.
Cool. Very good.
And also in the box are little standees, these little standees for each of the different wizards that come in the box, and that's what sort of goes into here. And so when you're playing, if you move up one social status, say I was the basic bitch, of course, and Ben was the slutty cheerleader, and I got a card that let me go up one social status, I'm coming from beneath, which means Ben would be knocked down. So he would become the basic bitch. Wait, no. Will you go up or down, Ben?
I would go down.
You go down. So then you would go down, and then I would become the slutty cheerleader. And then the opposite, if I go down, you get knocked back up. So it sort of moves up and down based on where you are, and you knock the other players around. So I was going to actually switch over and show you some of the cards as examples. So here we have Richie Prick Jr., and the beginning of this, the source lets you gain one social status, then deal 4 damage to a foe adjacent to you on the social status board. So as an example, if I had been the jock, and then I became the class president, whoever I knocked down to jock, they're next to me, and I'm going to be able to do 4 damage to them. If I had been in the middle somewhere, I might have the opportunity to hit the slutty cheerleader and the nerd.
Yeah.
So you can see those are the kinds of effects. Here we got Booty Wedge Star. I think I talked about this last time we looked at this stuff. All these characters are a weird combination of like 50s references, modern stuff. I tried to like plumb the depths of what a 50-year-old would think about with high school. Ridiculous. Yeah. Apparently I was thinking of Grease here or something. I don't know.
I was going to say.
Star. So this is one that actually has the bully keyword. So bully is if that person, if your target is of a lower social standing than you, then the bully keyword triggers. And they've got some really fun effects. So if it was, I'm doing 2 damage to the foe on my left, and that was Ben, and I was the class president, and Ben was the slutty cheerleader, I'd get to bully Ben, and so that foe has lower social status. I get to add the top card of the main deck to my spell. So my spell just became much better. And all the bully effects are pretty big, and so it makes it a lot of fun. A lot of them are just adding that main card, adding another card, which is really fun because it triggers lots of combos and becomes very interesting. Advisor Adderall. So he actually has a reaction. Reactions are, we've had these in the past, if you die before the spell resolves, you get to do something, in this case, deal 2 damage to the active player for each one of the arcane glyphs that you control. And as you remember, if you were the class president, you may have put arcane as the additional glyph that turn, and it counts as one you control. So if I had Advisor Adderall, and I had a 3-piece all arcane spell, and I was class president and chose arcane, that could be 4 glyphs. So I could do an additional 8 points of damage if someone killed me and I had Professor Adderall still uncast, down as my spell. So again, it creates some really fun moments where you're like, oh heck, I'm going to make sure that if somebody does kill me, I can strike back and potentially do almost half of their health in one blast.
Well, yeah, and as I've even gotten up, I've seen 5 or maybe once even 6 cards spells in this game before too. Maybe 5 in a creature, because with the creatures and the last card you showed, I mean, there's plenty of things that juice up your spell with an extra card as well. So
right,
it can definitely get pretty mad, yeah.
So I'd go through a few of these cards. If there are any questions, people can pop in. That's fine.
Yeah, we actually do have one that I was waiting for a good opportunity for.
Sure.
Did you guys have any other names in mind for this iteration of the series? I love the title, but just curious.
You know what? I try to get alliteration in every time, and so like they kind of come to me fully formed. I don't know what it was like. So Hell High was definitely. There's a larger story. You know, people should be aware that Epic Spell Wars is satire. All of the awful alliteration and thoughts inside of Epic Spell Wars are meant to be satire. And there's this larger story about who Uncle Andy, who is the evil, the antagonist of all of this. There's a larger story about him and why the world the way it is. And so high school, he was a high school student, is this thing that was hellish for him. And so Hell High was made perfect sense. And then the hijinks, you know, is just, I'm trying to find a word that still is about, you know, this, what's occurring and about it being like, you know, originally like, you know, duel or, you know, panic or all these different sort of verbs that lead back into alliteration. So that's sort of where it came from.
Nice.
We can see some of the I'll flip through some of the people. I mean, hopefully everyone goes out and gets the game, but here's a look at some of the jokes built into this. We have Edgelord Neckbeard.
And can I just make a strategy comment right here too, really quick?
Yeah,
So one of the things that's fun about the game is the kind of typically the race you want to be higher on the social standing ladder, especially the president's super powerful. But it is fun that occasionally you can build a kind of alternate strategy, and this card is a really good showcase of doing the turning all that on its head. And he's letting you move down really easily and then fuck everybody else up who's better than you. So
yeah, this is an example of like lose to social status. So if you were at Slutty Cheerleader, you could go into Nerd, and then Nerd, if you had the right health, you would be doing 4 damage to each people with. I've seen those turns play out where you got it all just perfect to really blast everyone, and they are super fun to set up and super fun when they go off.
Yeah. And hilarious when somebody fucks you over and messes up.
Yeah. And then everything goes crazy. So we got Stiletto Razorblade. We have, let's see, Mentor Murder Metal, Chad Chugger, who also has on a logo on his shirt President Asshole from a couple of sets ago. I try to keep working President Asshole into all of these games. Hopefully I won't have to after next year, which would be nice. Again, with the 50s, weird 50s references. We got Professor Pizza Pockets. He's got a hot pocket in his pocket. A lot of pocket. This one has you're discarding a treasure they control. If you die before a spell resolves, again, does damage. Go through these pretty quickly. Cheery Pom Poms. Got a cheerleader. We got AV Vindicator.
Is there a favorite card among the artists or among yourselves? Any particular favorite?
Oh boy, I love them all. I try to make little jokes in all of these. I should switch over to show you some of the treasures. We didn't look at those last time. Some of the treasures. So there's sets in the treasures typically because they'll have the effect that is correlated to each one of the different types of glyphs. So they make up sort of a set of things. And so I try thematically to make them all related to each other. So this is all the clubs. So we've got the chess club.
And honestly, on the favorite card, I love all these everlasting treasures. They're probably some of my favorite cards. They're
pretty fun.
Stick around forever, I would say.
These once during each of your turns, you may discard and this is arcane in this case, an arcade card. If you do, you gain or lose 1 social standing. So this allows you to sort of game the system a little bit and move up and down the board to trigger off all of those additional effects that you want. So you hear the Glee Club. We have the Robotics Club. It's got some robot arms and the French Club. Somebody killing someone with a baguette. The No Fucking Club. There's actually a lot of profanity in this one. This profanity has slowly but surely ramped up over the course of the Epic Spell Wars games. It started off with the first one where the rule book only had the F word in it a couple times, and I got a lot of pushback from the people I worked with about that it was a kids game and why are we using the F word in a kids game? I tried to explain it's not a kids game.
Who on earth thought Epic Spell Wars was a kids game?
Yeah, I think that was sort of the impression at first because the art was so, originally it was done by Nick Edwards and it looked a little like Adventure Timey.
Sure.
And so I think the impression was it was supposed to be a kids game, but the theme is very much like Adult Swim, which is the aesthetic I like. kids,
Right.
hyper adult is my wheelhouse. So this game is, clearly still ramping up. The last one, Pleasure Palace, with all of the sexual innuendo, is probably the raciest of all of them so far.
Yeah.
This one might actually not quite be as racy as that one, but
That's for sure.
the shitty number 2 pencil.
Daniel, by the way.
Every one of the Epic Spell Wars actually has a shitty treasure card. There is a poo in each of them.
Oh my God.
With I think what the first one was. What was the first one, Ben? Do you remember what the first? It's like
man.
That's
the one I've played the most too, but I don't remember.
The finish this shit, I think it was, maybe.
Okay.
I'm forgetting.
It's honestly been a while since I played the first one. Yeah.
Right. So this one, like, if your spell has 2 or fewer components, add 1 die to your power roll. We have the Monster Prom Date. The Big Guzzler. This ties back into some other thematic stuff that'll come up in the game eventually as part of the larger storytelling. There's a character named Balzor, who's this living slushy machine that's part of the narrative. The FU book, the Satanic Social Media. The Brick Family Trust Fund. You may remember this is one of the wizards. The rich prick wizard. Now he's got his foot on the throat of some kid. This poor kid. Then we have another set, the Cafeteria set. These are funny. These are funny. I think they're funny.
They're really good.
So we have the mystery nuggets. They don't quite know what they are. Could be anything. Chicken, beef, cat. We got the Cafeteria Tater Tots. We've got the spoiled milk. This one was very specific. I remember in high school they used to give us pizza that didn't really taste like pizza. It was very phony. Like it tasted like cardboard. So this is a piece of cardboard that's masquerading as a slice of pizza.
I think that's valid. I don't think that's changed.
No, right?
At least from your experience to my experience.
Yep, I remember the same
Although I'll
pizza.
say the last 5-6 years there has been a much bigger emphasis on healthy eating for kids.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing kids nowadays in high school are doing, and again, feedback I've had from my 16-year-old, the food's changed dramatically. I think it's much, much better. But it probably also depends on where you live. But when we went to school, it could not have been worse for you. I mean, it's absolutely terrible. Here's the horn dog, like a corn dog, only it's licking its own butt. And there's the best friend set, the stoner, Sammy Slacker, the weeboo kid, the emo kid, the skanky kid, and the meme lord, which was clearly my attempt to roll a bunch of different memes together into one character. And so each of those does sort of the same thing, which is based off of which component you're using, you get +5 to your initiative. So it lets you go first if you line up your initiative with whatever their bonus they're giving you.
Great.
We've got the Screechy folder. So again, things from high school, probably my era, or if actually maybe even earlier, that no kid today would have any idea what the hell this is. So perfect. There's the I don't even know if they still dissect frogs. Did they dissect frogs when you went to high school, Ben?
They probably did. I never dissected one, but I'm pretty sure they did. Yeah.
I did.
You did? Okay, great. Well, there you go. I know it's this, or depending if you were in AP, it was a fetal frog, a fetal pig was also another option.
Gotcha.
I went with the classic dissecting a frog concept here. The Yearbook of the Damned. One of the few times you'll see text actually appear in the card. I think there's like maybe only one other, the weird like satanic dog telling you to kill the mailman. I think that's the only other time I put text on one of these cards. Maybe there's 2. Not very many though. The Short Bus Avenger. So that's all the treasure cards. And then what else I have? Oh, that was not that. Those are all the treasure cards. Are there any other questions from people?
Let's see. So we have a couple other ones that were submitted. So one was, what was your most favorite card? Or, okay, how about favorite spell combo? Do you have a favorite spell combo in this game in particular?
Yes. I mean, some of the spell combos, I can go back through here. The spell combos that let you that let you get into the bully multiple times are pretty fun. And so the bullies for the quality cards actually, if that foe has a lower social standing, they remove a component from their spell. So not only can you add a component to your spell, you can actually bully someone and have them remove one of the components from their spell, which is pretty fun when you get the bullying stuff to work just right. It's really impactful. How about you, Ben?
I tend to like the cards that add extra cards to your spells, and actually hate the cards that remove spells from your spells, because they're super fun to play on whoever's winning. But I hate getting hit by one of those things. Obviously, anybody does, but
right. Let's see.
I tend to, in this set, I end up liking, I think it's Arcane that has all the treasure stuff. So I end up liking the Arcane stuff the most, because I also like amassing a bunch of treasures.
Yeah.
But I mean, I enjoy flexing into any of the strategies. I mean, but there's something for everyone. Like healing stuff is probably my least favorite, but I mean, I like all of the magics just pretty well in different circumstances. So.
And I like the healing stuff. Like, I usually push for us to have more of the healing stuff, because I think it's fun to be able to come back from, being in the bottom.
Definitely, a lot of people would, I would think. Yeah.
Here are some of the deliveries are pretty funny. The Pain Locker, again, Ben talked about Arcane giving you treasure, so it's a good example of this giving you a treasure card. We got a kid that's been eviscerated by what looks like sort of the Iron Maiden meets the locker. We've got the finals cramming, so we've got this anamorphic book cramming his fist through this kid. This one actually lets you +2 damage for each card in your spell.
Yeah, this is actually one of my favorite cards, because it's a huge payoff for getting a bunch of extra shit in your spell, obviously.
Yeah, and that's where 2 damage for each card, and then also if you're the nerd, as an example, it gives you +3, so you're getting bonuses as you go. We got the Lunch Lady Lucifer. She's grinding a kid into a sloppy Joe. And this is this is actually a creature, so you can see we've kept creatures. Creatures first appeared in Epic Spell Wars 2. So we have the creatures, and they stick around if you roll high enough. So later on, if you're about to take damage, you can always sacrifice a creature, and they take the damage instead. So we've kept creatures for all the sets after the second one where that was introduced. Let's see here. We've got Beer Bong Baptism. For some reason, this priest is killing this kid with a beer bong. A lot of the dark have to do with social standing. We have SAT, Satanic Ass Torture. So this kid, 2 damage for each card in your spell, is another one that triggers off of how many cards in your spell. We've got Principal Hornhole. This is the principal of Hell High. He's giving some corporal punishment, so he's actually spanked the head off of this kid. Academic Burnout. So we got the elemental ones now. These ones, a lot of the elementals affect your social standing. We've got OMG DUI LOL. This is one of my favorites. Thought this was funny. And this one, you gain a treasure. You can take 2 damage for each card in your spell. If you get the 10+, this is not a creature. You don't get to keep her. Here's one of the creatures, the Hell High Hellhound, the mascot. He's tearing off the head of one of the other high schools' mascots. I don't know what the other high schools in Epic Spell Wars world are, but apparently there's some. We got one of the cheerleaders tearing someone's heart out.
So we do have another question.
Yes.
This one's broad, but what does the future of Epic Spell Wars look like? Future expansions for Epic Spell Wars and Annihilageddon? ?
Yeah, so we actually, I was going to show a little bit of that in a minute, since we set up an hour, so if people want to keep watching, that's great. Yeah. I can show off a little bit after this of the first expansion. Actually, Ben is the designer of the first expansion for Annihilageddon, which is the deck builder. The goal for Epic Spell Wars is to keep putting out regular Epic Spell Wars. They're great. People love them. They're a ton of fun. They're easy to pick up, and they sort of continue on with all of the sort of mechanical design space we've been building. But we're actually trying to expand it as well into other places. And so the first thing we did was Annihilageddon, which is the deck builder. And Annihilageddon is actually my favorite game we've ever done at Cryptozoic. It's I've played it endlessly. I mean, I've played the DC deck building probably the most. The first DC deck builder, I've probably played 600 or 700 rounds of it. because that thing was tested forever to build our Cerebus engine to be as good as it is. But with the Nihilageddon, the chocolate and peanut butter of taking hit points and the things that were fun about Epic Spell Wars, sort of the frenetic, chaotic components of Epic Spell Wars, and marrying it to our Cerebus engine to create that Cerebus brawl, is way better than I thought it was going to be. Way better than it had any. It didn't deserve to be that good because it sort of kind of came together so fast, and it's so much fun. We played so much of it. It is, I think, by far my favorite game we've made at Cryptozoic. And so I really want to continue to make more of the deck builder. And the directive for the first expansion for it, which it is already developed, designed, done, it's ready to go to print right now, actually, was to come up with a way to play the deck builder without in a whole new way. So it wasn't just about like, let's do another iteration, sort of like we do with the DC stuff, which is all great, like another set of cards. We wanted to come up with an expansion that changed how the game played completely. And Ben did an incredible job coming up with an expansion that really does make it feel really super different. And so I can actually show some of that too in a second here. Let's just show the last of these cards. We got Teen Mom. Clearly we have the Boomer Genocide. Anyone who knows me knows I hate baby boomers, so putting this in the game was a no-brainer. Cancellation, timely. I think I made this card about a year and a half ago.
Woof.
Tiger Mom. And there's the Wild Magic, and that's it. So I was going to go over to, so again, this is not to do with Hell High, but this is about the expansion for Nihilageddon. And maybe, Ben, you could talk about it a little bit, like what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, so this expansion will, it's designed to fit with base Nihilageddon. Although one of the other cool things is that in the future, let's assume there's a possibility there may be, Nihilageddon 2 or something like that. Then this would also be compatible with that. So it's an expansion that you add on top of the main Nihilageddon game. Also, quickly just throw in, I echo all Corey's sentiments. I think Nihilageddon is absolutely one of the very best games that we've ever published. It's super fun and good. I mean, if you like,
I'm gonna jump in, but I demoed that game all the days of Gen Con, and I would say 80%, 70 or 80% of the people that demoed it at Gen Con stood up, went and bought a copy of the game. It's easy, I think, but it's weird because I've heard some of the reviews of it, and it just drives me crazy because clearly some of the reviews, they did not play the game. They read the back of the box and assumed they knew what it was, and they did not play that game because the way they talk about it is clear as shit to me. They did not play it. They're even using the wrong terminology in it, and so that's frustrating. But the people who play the game come to realize pretty quickly that and I've heard people say, like, well, it's your standard deck builder. It's really not. Because the part where you put in hit points and the granularity of hit points being another vector on top of deck building, but then also the randomness, because in this game, when you die, you don't die. You just get a dead wizard token that has some negative effect. The randomness and granularity as well that comes from the dead wizard token stuff, which are negative VP points, and the elegance of how hit points and dead wizard tokens combine with our Cerebus engine is really, really remarkable. It's really much deeper than I think people understand. And that's the part that is so fun about it, is that it's not just about building your own deck and playing your own game, which I think is one of the major flaws with deck builders, can be that you feel like you're playing by yourself quite a bit. I'm building my thing, and then sometimes I'm attacking you a little bit. Even in our games where there's quite a bit of attacking, it still feels kind of solitary. And with the Epic Spell Wars and Nihilageddon deck builder, you're constantly interfacing with everyone else. Every turn, everyone's fucking with everyone. And that really does make the feel of it very, very different from any other deck builder I've played.
It really does. I mean, the social element of we're all sitting around and fucking with each other. It's also a lot of the fun of Hijinx at Hell High is the kind of implied social stuff of like, I'm bullying you, there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
We're friends in real life, which is kind of this fun little overlay to this moment that's more than just a mechanical moment. And yeah, with a Nihilageddon, it's so funny because the hit points and the increased volume of attack exchanges is a lot of what goes into that. I mean, it feels way more interactive, way more than a lot of deck builders. And it's funny because right off the bat, when you're on turn one, you're choosing somebody to wand and just poke for 1 damage, and it's more of just a social statement than it even is mechanically impactful. But it's so fun. It already sets a tone for it being probably the most interactive deck builder I've ever played, and I've basically played all of them. So yeah.
Before we get too far into Annihilageddon, we do have one last question on Hell High. Could we see some Dead Wizard cards from Hell High?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we sure can. Hold on.
Sorry, I'm a terrible tangenter.
It's okay. We're here to chat. That's it.
All right. To share my screen again. Okay. Can you see that?
Yeah.
All right. So we have Meet Your Maker. Oh, actually, these aren't, you don't really understand these unless I show you the different champions first. So we have Coach Winner, the throbbing champion of victory, being carried by a bunch of his team. I don't. We've got Cruella Candy, the meanest girls. You can see where like these come from clearly. Danny Drama. And the funny thing was, like when I was coming up with these wizards, I wanted them to be high school tropes-ish, but also we already had the tropes on the social standing board. So I didn't want to use those specifically, which were the most common ones. So it had to be sort of a weird hybrid of the two, or else they were sort of becoming redundant. So here we have Ignatius Void, sort of the class, like this weird eldritch class clown sort of a thing. Puke the Thrash Kings. We got the Skater Kid, and he's got the Skate Rats in the background. The Skate Rats are actually a recurring character. They are in Annihilageddon. There's some characters I like. We got Sloppy Joe, the Cafeteria Conjurer. We got Valedictoria, the Magus Cum Laude. Oh, whoops. We've got Veronica Vixen, the Vamp, the Vampire Goth Girl. And we have Zacatron, Mechanical Muscle Mage. And this is actually the winner of year before, I guess now, Gen Con. He won the tournament, Zach did, and so now he got to be a wizard in the game. And his direction was that he's a programmer and he likes to lift weights. So this is what we ended up with. So if you go to the Dead Wizards, we've got the Meet Your Maker, which is clearly the Dead Wizard associated with the Sloppy Joe Wizard. So resolve now, choose a foe and a glyph, deal 1 damage to that foe for each card in their hand with that glyph. So this is actually pretty fun. We've had some games where somebody has actually come from behind to win based on killing somebody after they died. How many games have you said has that happened, Ben? It's been a few.
I've at least seen it, maybe 3 times or something. I mean, it's meant to be kind of hard to pull off because if you just get to always kill somebody with this Dead Wizard token, that would.
Typically, it's in a real close game. You're down to 2 people.
Right.
Each person has a few health left. They kill the other person, and then this person, like, I choose Arcane. Like, oh my God, yeah, I had 3 Arcane. You fucking killed me. It was a double kill.
We do have a comment on Facebook directed directly at you, Corey. How could you, of all people, miss the art kid trope?
Which one?
The art kid.
The art kid trope. You know, it's so funny. Maybe just subconsciously I'm protective of that person. So it would never dawn on me to make fun of that person.
That's so funny.
I put the drama kid in, which was what I was. So
I definitely knew that kid.
I feel protective of artists. So we've got so we hear the skate or die. We did funny. I think we've done that all of them, right? Have we done funny little titles for all of them? I think so.
I think so.
I think I write everything in the game except sometimes like I think Matt Hyra put in these originally. I think I only changed a few of them. So credit actually goes to Matt Hyra for writing these little funny tags for the Dead Wizards. End zone. This is the coach's one, clearly. You know, we have exit stage left. During one of your turns in a future game, lose 1 to 3 social status. You choose, and then deal 2 damage to each foe with a higher social status. So we have some this time that actually let you do some fun stuff in a game coming up. Again, that one does it as well. Resolve now. If you're the only dead wizard, you gain a kill token, 1 BP. That's pretty good. We got canceled, which is the during a future game, again, deal 2 damage 1. Final chapter. This is totally sucks. As kids come to dig her up. It's a vampire. It's afraid to come back. And then we have Deadlift, which is the one associated with Zacatron.
Great.
Oh, and the last laugh. That was kind of creepy. Look at the kids with their faces on the board. It's a weirdly eldritch sort of turn on the Ignatius Void. And you'll notice we actually included the background behind the Dead Wizard token. In Pleasure Palace, there was actually a printing mistake on the first run of the game. So if you have one of the first run, it's just a gray background. One of the plates was missing when they printed it, and we did not catch it until it actually shipped. So you have a printing error version if you have the first print run of Pleasure Palace. Some more trivia, Epic Spellworks trivia. Ben, you've repositioned yourself in your sex dungeon. Now you get to
yeah, sorry.
Come in. That's nice.
Yeah.
So I was going to show quickly, and again, this is here is the box cover.
Wow.
I didn't show this last time we did this, but for Annihilageddon Gangbangers. And so the notion of the Annihilageddon expansion is that you're actually the leader of a gang. And so there's I think is there 8 gangs, Ben? 6 or 8?
6.
6 gangs. There's 6 gangs. And you can see the trophy over here on the side, very cool. There's 6 gangs, and you're the leader of one of these gangs, and you get to have a whole new experience playing Epic Spell Wars and Annihilageddon with the same Epic Spell Wars and Annihilageddon whole thing, but you get to be one of these gangs, and where is it? Oh no, I closed it by accident. So Ben, you want to talk about it a little bit? We have a little more time.
Yes, I will. And yeah, sorry for all the repositioning. It was uncomfortable in there, and now the landscaping is done. So, okay. So, yeah. So gangbangers. Basically, you're gonna pick a gang. There's 5 gangs, and I think the 6th gang is still intended to be a promo gang, right, Corey?
I think so. So I go through them real quick. There's the Skate Rats, the Cthulhu Kids, the Merkin Kingdom. Merkins were the fantasy race that I created of anamorphic hair replacements for actors that are shy about their genitals. The Boner Boys, the Freaky Fruit, the Rockin' Satan, and Little Goldo. Little Goldo, I believe, is the promo one, correct?
Yeah.
Is the promo.
So, yeah, so basically the idea is you're going to pick a gang, and you're going to be doing everything you normally do in regular Annihilageddon, with a few exceptions I'll go over. So there's really 2 big components to this expansion. One is the 6 gangs, each one is a complete gang. And then also there's these treasure cards. So there's these 30 treasure cards that you end up replacing the not supervillains, what the heck are they called? Legends, that you replace the legend stack with. But also I'll get to that in a second. So first we'll talk about the gangs. So the gangs are all designed to play very differently. The Merkin team is sort of the easy, straightforward team. It's a good team to pick for your first time, or if you don't have as much experience or what have you. But basically, so every gang has, when you pick your gang, you're going to kind of start with your gang card in front of you that'll give you some way to summon your gangsters that's unique to that gang. And so if we saw with the Merkin team, their method is pretty simple. It's just once every turn, you can summon any gangster you want. So it's not going to hurt your head too much. And then Corey's flipping through the different gang members available to you here. And so see, like this little guy, Merkin, you have a bunch of these in your gang. And every turn it'll say you can attack, deal 1 damage to target foe for each gangster named Merkin you control. So you're kind of trying to build up your, you're trying to build up these Merkins, and the more you get them into play, they kind of scale exponentially, right? So other people are incentivized to kill you, which in addition to giving you a dead wizard token is going to knock out all your gangsters, and you kind of got to start rebuilding your gang over again. So your gangsters kind of function. So this guy, though, you'll see some of the gangsters aren't just about dealing damage, right? Like this guy Mercules, when you gain an attack card, you may put it on top of your deck. So if you want to kind of, you see a really juicy attack card in the lineup that you want to buy, which there are plenty in Annihilageddon, as you know, you might want to summon this Mercules, and then you'll draw your attack card a lot sooner. If you're trying to build some critical mass of damage, maybe you're throwing your little Merkins out there. So each team kind of has its own shtick. And actually in the rule book, we put a little guide in there that says, this is kind of how complicated this team is. And if you're worried about adding, the expansion does add a little bit of play time to the game as well. And so some of the gangs are very aggressive and bloody, and so they make the game go faster. And some of the gangs are a little more, like Corey's now showing us the defensive team, the Skate Rats. So they have a bunch of defenses, they have a bunch of healing. And we were torn because we really like, some people really like they want to play a defensive healing team. But the reality is if I have a gang that's really bloody and you have a gang that's really bloody, the game is going to go way faster than if I have a team that's kind of slow and you have a team that's kind of slow. So actually in the rules, we put a little guide to the complexity and the potential like slowness or fastness impact the gangs will have on the standard game. But you have, this is probably one of my favorite gangs, is the Cthulhu Kids. So like I said, some of the gangs are more straightforward. This gang's a little crazier. You're summoning these little cuddle cultists, right? And then every turn you can see they blow up part of the main deck, and if they get a mayhem card, then you're going to sacrifice the cultist, but you're going to get to summon one of these giant Cthulhu gangsters, these Cthulhu Kids, which are some of the most powerful gangsters in the whole expansion. So like you can see, let's see Abby Azathoth here. So the way that your gangsters work is just once per turn, you get to fire off this attack at whoever you want. So it's kind of like it's like an ongoing card in play that stays in front of you, but you can always have summon it under the right conditions. And then when you die, it also dies, but it goes back to your reserves. So she says, roll 2d6 against target foe. So again, in a bit of a homage back to the original Spell Wars roots, I really wanted to put dice rolling into this expansion somewhere. So there's plenty of fun dice rolling, actually, is one of the other cute fun hooks of the Gangbangers expansion. And the Cthulhu team does a lot of it. So roll 2d6 against target foe. If we roll a 2 to 8, we just drain them for 1. And if we roll a 9 to 12, though, we just flat out kill their hero. Or their wizard. So, and if we roll doubles, we get to go again. So she's got a lot going on, obviously, but it can be really fun to get her in play and try to rack up kills and stuff.
You see quickly, like, these are some of clearly the Cthulhu mythos meet little kids. So Sammy Shavnagroth, we have Nikki Natharl-Hotep, Kathy Cthulhu. She's I think the most powerful. No, Abby Azeroth is. But still very powerful. Harry Haster. We have the Freaky Fruits, so including the Luda Peeler, the Peeping Tomato. So these are, again, I don't want to get too deep into this whole thing, but the teams are really fun. They have a real nice build around in terms of, one of the great things about the Annihilageddon deck builder is that as you're buying cards and as you're building your deck, you're sort of diving into a strategy of how you want that deck to work. And the good thing about the gangsters is it lets you sort of start off in a place and build from there around how your deck's going to work. It's a fun build around. And then all the treasure cards become this really incredible part of the game where you're buying these treasure cards that are super powerful and they're also super fun.
Right. So, yeah, so these are all just, many of these are just super powerful attacks, attack cards, and so it just plays into kind of the combat feeling even more so. We're not fighting down a stack of legends. We're just buying ultra powerful attack cards and fighting it out until all the dead wizard tokens are handed out. So,
Well, those first three, I had a real commentary going on there from the
Yeah.
control device, the wealth transfer system, and the electric nipple.
CIA brand. Yeah, so like you said, the starting point is fun. Like some of the gangs, like the undead gang, for example, which we didn't see, but they summon off of buying both treasures and spells. So you can buy treasures, spells, both. But say the Merkin gang, some of the gangs are a little more open-ended. They don't really care what you buy as much. So some of them have a handhold, some of them are less handholdy, so you can kind of get whatever you want.
Right. So that's, again, didn't want to go too deep into the expansion, but the future for Epic Spell Wars, we're going to continue to put out regular versions, but really we actually, at this point, like there's no secret to it. Like, I don't care, but we have, this one's all done. Ben's currently working on Annihilageddon 2, and we also have a 2-player version of the game called the Kill Pit. And so we're trying to specifically make the Annihilageddon style deck builder for a 2-player experience. And I think you can play all these games. I think we talked about this yesterday, Ben. All these games that say like 2 to 6 players, it's kind of bullshit. 2-player games are 2-player games. Anything that's designed to be a 2-player game, that could be a 2-player game. Anything that says it's 2 to 6 is a fucking 4-person game with 6 being too many and 2 being miserable. That's just my opinion. But
it's often the case for sure, yeah.
So we're trying to build a deck builder that is a really good 2-player experience with the Kill Pit.
Right.
But then again, those cards are also all easily can be shuffled into the larger deck building experience. And I'm going to put out a ton of this Epic Spell Wars deck building stuff because I love it so much. And this Gangbangers is so much fun. We spent a ridiculous amount of time on this game. I mean, really, we went
Truly
back
ridiculous.
to scratch twice on the design and didn't give up until it was perfect. Ben did an amazing job. We play tested this, I don't know what, 100, 200 hours worth of play testing at least. Us personally, probably more.
Ton, yeah.
Yeah, and we've got to this place where it's so much fun. There's actually in the manual an entire page with a contract you have to sign not to be a bitch when you play it because it is so brutal, like fucking over everyone you're playing with. In like you thought it was bad in the Annihilageddon, in the Gangbangers, it's ridiculous. And so table talk is actually a real part of the game. Like the immediate table talk that starts when you start playing that game, when you play it a couple times, about who's winning. It's always the evaluate. I'm not winning, he's winning. So like who you attack and who you target is always about who's winning. And so being able to talk everyone else out of the fact that you are or aren't winning, I get dogpiled on a lot because I'm never winning. And everyone's like, you always say that, but then I always win. And so like if you win too much, then you can never say that you're not the person winning. It's just a ton of fun. It's my absolute favorite.
In all actuality, I mean, there is a real serious diplomatic element to the game that is both fun and impactful. It's not just about evaluating all the numbers on the cards most efficiently. There's a real diplomatic element and opportunities to be cunning and aggressive and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's funny. Yeah.
No, I see the comments over here. That's the artist on Epic Spell Wars stuff was originally Nick, and then it went to RS Bixby, and so we've only had 2 artists on all of the Epic Spell Wars stuff, and so RS now has been doing all of the Epic Spell Wars work, and I think he does a great job. I love Nick's work. Nick has a great style. I think RS does a good job telling jokes with the art, which I think is awesome. So the fact that the jokes play a little bigger in all the newer stuff, I think is pretty great.
Yeah. I think that this whole entire game, the entire Spell Wars line, has really become something special because of, all of the creative minds that we have, all of the fun things that you and Ben both just like to capitalize on, all the jokes. I can hear you play testing from my office.
Yeah.
Oh,
We try to close the door because it gets pretty spicy when we're play testing.
Oh, that's great. So, and the art definitely plays into it too, the puns, all of it. I think it's just like, it's
we did the little statue. I think I have one right here.
Oh yeah, I do too.
We put the little statue out, which I thought
was
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I need one now.
Hey, I think they're on sale in our store for like
They
$20-something.
Yeah.
So, Ben, all you got to do is get a credit card
Okay.
and log on to the cryptozoic.com.
All
Yep.
right.
And we have a ton of other stuff coming from Epic Spell Wars too, besides the game stuff. Like Ultra Pro put out a series of sleeves and play mats that are beautiful, and they actually did really well. I think they sold out almost immediately, and they had to go right into reprinting them. So I think we're actually going to do another set of stuff with them too. They turned out really great.
Those card sleeves are fucking awesome. Yeah, you should.
Yeah. Also. With the deck builder, if you're a player of the deck builder, each of your champions, the wizards, come with a familiar card, and we've actually been including familiar cards that relate to the wizard cards from the old Epic Spell Wars games. So, for instance, Fey Ticklebottom's familiar card appears in Nylageddon. So, if you have the old Fey Ticklebottom, you can pull that out, and you can sort of build the full set if you have the old stuff too. And so, even in like the new Hijinx at Hell High, Ignatius Jest actually comes with his familiar if you want to take him and go play inside of the Nylageddon deck builder. So we're going to continue to do that where we go back to the old wizards and add their familiars in. Just, I think, fun.
Super fun.
Really great. Well, it looks like we are just out of time. Thank you so much, you guys, for sharing all of your insights about this game. Taking us through all of the cards was a ton of fun. I know there were a couple wizards in there that I had not seen, and I loved them. It was a really fun time. Thank you again so much for your time to be able to tell us about the history.
Thank you for hosting us.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I hope you all enjoyed the stream. This is where we're going to wrap it up, but Epic Spell Wars of the Battle Wizards Hijinx at Hell High is available now. So feel free to check it out on the Cryptozoic e-store, at your local game store, whatever fits your fancy, but this has been a really exciting launch, and we hope you enjoy the game.
All right.
We'll see you on our next launch party. All right.
All right.
See ya.
Bye. Thank you.